Hello everyone, and welcome to my boss guide to the Pilgrims Traverse. In this video, we'll be covering every boss and all their mechanics. If there is a particular boss you're stuck on or would like more preparation for, you can use the timestamps provided in the description below. But without further delay, let's just get into the bosses. The boss will begin the fight with Branch Out. This will spawn 3 ads that will burrow underground and cast hedge mazing, along with the boss. During this, the ads will be moving around the arena. Once they finish their cast, they will stop their movement and the boss and the ads will all do point blank AoEs. All you need to do is track the ad's movement and find the safe spot. I like to keep myself within the largest safe spot while adjusting to the ads, and near the end of the cast, disengage into the safe spot. Once the cast has finished, the ads will become targetable. Make sure you have some burst up for these ads, as they do have an enrage of sorts, and if they are not killed in time, will spam you with a jump attack, which puts you into the down for the count stage, which is highly likely to KO you. If you're struggling with the damage check here, you can increase it with a Pomander of Strength, Haste, and an Incense of Bark Balm if you have one, as Fail does some decent damage, and it's only floor 10, so you'll get plenty of these back. Just after Hedge Mazing, the boss begins casting Leaf Mash. This will target all 4 cardinals or intercardinals with a point blank AoE that deals moderate damage and gives any hit players a stacking vulnerability. To avoid this, pay attention to where the first and 4th spots where the boss is jumping to, and put yourself in the 4th spot, then wait until the first AoE goes off and run into it. After that, the boss will loop its mechanics, starting from Branch Out, into Hedge Mazing, into Leaf Mash, until either the player or the boss's defeat. The boss will begin the fight by casting Touchdown, a lengthy cast that will knock players back at the end of the cast. Additionally, each leg will do a point blank AoE in quick succession. To solve this, each leg will glow red one after the other during the cast of Touchdown. This indicates the order of which the point blank AoEs will be going off in. The 1st and 4th will always be next to each other, so the simple solution is to look for the 4th glowing leg, ride the knockback into its direction, and once the 1st leg's AoE goes off, move into it. Next, the boss will cast Bare Root Planting. This will target a random player with a marker. Once the cast is finished, a dodgeable AoE will be placed on the marked player's original location, and the AoE will expand in a star formation. During this, the boss will do another cast called Dense Planting. This will spawn seemingly random dodgeable AoEs around the arena. As the marked player, you'll want to place the marker as far out as you can, and then find the largest safe spot to safely dodge the AoEs. To my understanding, the stars formation is based on the marked character's facing direction at the end of the cast, so placing it at a slight angle will leave a larger safe spot opposite of it. The boss will then loop its mechanics from Touchdown into Bare Root Planting, into Dense Planting, and repeat. The boss will start the fight with Liturgy of Light. This calls down rings of light that will make portions of the arena unsafe when they land, and spinning blades that rotate around the arena. After, the boss will cast Grip of Salvation, a half-room cleave into a follow-up attack that will cleave the opposite side and in front. To avoid this, look for the glowing hand and move to the opposite side. Once the first cleave goes off, move into the previously cleaved side and don't be in front. I just like to move behind his glowing hand. During this, the rings of light and blades will still be occurring, so just be wary of these. Although it's better to be hit by these than the half room cleaves, as they only do some chip damage and don't give any vulnerability stacks. The next mechanic is Divine Favor. This will target a random player with a tracking AoE. This player should wait until the end of the cast and then start moving. If playing in a party, make sure to move this away from your group and not into them. The boss will then loop his mechanics, starting from Liturgy of Light into Grip of Salvation into Divine Favor. Early into the fight, he may do 2 Grips of Salvation back to back, so just be aware of that. The boss will begin by dashing to the side of the arena and summoning 2 untargetable adds that will dash to the opposite sides. The boss will then cast Blown Blessing, that will either flow out a light yellow beam from its back or a blue watery beam. The adds will also copy the boss's beam. Pay attention to what ad gets the beam first, as that will dictate the order of the mechanics, as it'll always be the boss's AoE, then the first ad's AoE, then the second ad's AoE. The yellow will leave a point blank AoE, and the blue will leave a knockback AoE in the original location the boss and the adds dash to. The boss will then dash to the middle of the arena, and you'll see an indicator for the AoE the boss left. This will either be, again, a point blank AoE if it's the yellow beam, or a knockback AoE if it's the blue beam. Once the boss's AoE goes off, the adds will become targetable and leave their AoE indicators down. For the point blank AoEs, position yourself by the third add as the boss dashes to the middle, then move into the boss's AoE once it goes off. For the knockback, ride the knockback from the boss's into the first ad's knockback into the second ad's knockback. Once the adds are targetable, you should prioritize them, as if they are not killed in time, they will cast self-destruct, which I haven't tested letting go off, but I can only assume results in a wipe. These don't have nearly as much health as the first boss's adds, but you should still use whatever you have on them for safety. While dealing with the adds, the boss will cast either Near Tide or Far Tide. Near Tide is a point blank AoE, so get away, while Far Tide is a donut AoE, so you'll want to go in. So basically, just be a rebel and do the opposite of what the boss says. The second Far or Near Tide, some dodgeable AoEs will appear. After that, the boss will repeat its mechanics until defeat, from Blown Blessing into Far or Near Tide. The boss will begin the fight with liquefaction, liquefying the arena into quicksand. Conveniently, there's a few rocks to stand on to avoid being drowned. If you remain in the quicksand for more than 4 seconds, you will drown. It will only do this cast once, as the arena will remain liquefied until the boss is defeated. The boss will then dash to the side of the arena and target a random player with Sandpit, a tracking AoE. Initially, this will leave a dodgeable AoE, but the following hits will occur without warning. Kite this around the arena using the rocks as you go. It'll do a total of 4 AoEs per Sandpit. If you're in a party, make sure to not take this into your group. The rest of the party should group up to give the targeted player as much room as possible. After this, dodgeable AoEs will appear. The boss will then dash to a side of the arena and cast Windraiser. This will make the outer arena unsafe, and a visual indicator will appear in the center of the arena, which after a short delay will knock back all players who aren't standing in quicksand. So just before the knockback goes off, dip into the quicksand to avoid the knockback. If you do get knocked into the outer arena, you will get a damage over time effect, which is survivable, so if you do get this, just use any sustainabilities you have like Second Wind, and maybe an Ultra Potion or Pilgrim's Potion for the regen. The boss will then dash to the side of the arena and enter its loop phase, where it will repeat mechanics until defeat, but it is slightly different to prior bosses, as it'll combine its mechanics together. First, dodgeable AoEs will appear. Then the boss will cast Windraiser into Sandpit on a random player. This player will kite the boss around and be ready to dip into the quicksand once the knockback is about to go off. Dodgeable AoEs will once again appear, and you'll have a decent window of the boss not doing any mechanics here. It'll then repeat this phase and the order of mechanics until defeat. The boss will begin with Spine Shot. This will fire a conal cleave in front and behind the boss, so don't be in front or behind the boss to avoid being hit. The boss will then cast Branch Out. This will spawn 4 lines of cactuar adds. Per line, there is 3 small cactuar and 1 big. Each small cactuar will cover a single tile, while the big cactuar will cover the initial tile they are standing on and every 1 tile away from the original tile, up to a maximum of 3 by 3. But you don't need to remember that, just know you should always be at least 2 tiles away from the big ones. Anyway, the lines of cactuar will go off in order of when they spawned. 1, 2, 3, and 4. You want to dodge into either 3 to 1 or 4 to 2. So look out for the 3rd and 4th line and find whichever one is more convenient for you to dodge within. The boss will then cast another Spine Shot into Branch Out, spawning another set of cactuar. This time it's 5 small and 3 big, and instead of lines, the cactuars will all spawn at the same time and are spread out, with 1 tile free between each cactuar. The boss will then move to the center of the arena and cast 1 or 2 Stone March, and arrows will appear from the cactuars indicating which direction they'll move once the cast has finished. They'll all move in the same direction, and they'll either move 1 tile if it's 1 Stone March, or 2 tiles if it's 2 Stone March, which is tricky, but there is an easy way to solve this. First, figure out which tile the big ad in the middle is going to end and go opposite of that. Then find the big ad on that side. If it's 2 Stone March, simply park yourself on the tile behind the direction the big ad is moving towards, and then you should be safe. If it is 1 Stone March, you can do a similar process. Again, figure out where the middle big ad is going to end and go opposite of that. Then find the big ad on the side opposite of it and park yourself on the small cactuar and you'll be safe. The boss will then cast Spinning Needles and rotate either clockwise or counterclockwise. This is the same as Spine Shot, but it rotates several times. Get yourself to the boss's side and move with it. It's quite fast, so don't stop moving once it starts. The boss will then repeat mechanics from Branch Out with the 4 lines to Spine Shot to Branch Out with 1 or 2 Stone March into Spinning Needles until defeat. The boss will begin by dashing to the side of the arena and casting Zealous Glower, a lion AoE in front of it that will spawn 5 orbs. These orbs will become donut AoEs. The boss will then dash to another side of the arena and cast another Zealous Glower. Zealous Glower can start either immediately in front of the boss and go outwards, or start far out and go inwards. This is important because it dictates how the orbs spawn and the order of which they go off in. The first orb to spawn will be the first orb to be a donut, and then the following orbs will do donuts. First, go to the side of the boss to dodge the Zealous Glower, and watch where it's starting. Once the Zealous Glower has gone off, go to the first orb to spawn to avoid the donut and continue following the orbs. During this, the boss does another Zealous Glower, so once you're dodging the middle donut, make sure to be on the side of the next orb ready to dodge the donut and Zealous Glower. Once all donuts have been avoided, go to the first orb in the next set and keep following them. During this, the boss will cast Arduous Eye, another donut AoE that will spawn even more orbs from the AoE starting point. First, finish dodging the remaining donuts left by Zealous Glower. Then move into the boss's hitbox to avoid the Arduous Eye, and pay attention to where it's starting. Wait for it to finish and then go to the first orb, and once again, following the orbs in order of how they spawned, either clockwise or counterclockwise. On the last few orbs left from Arduous Eye, the boss will cast either a 2000 Mina Swing or Disorienting Groan. 2000 Mina Swing is a point blank AoE, so remain outside the boss's hitbox. Disorienting Groan is a knockback, so go to the center of the arena to be knocked back safely. The boss will then cast Octuple Swipe. If you've done floor 60 of Eureka Orphos, you'll be familiar with this mechanic because it's the exact same. If you haven't, then let me explain. The boss will cleave all 4 cardinal directions with a conal AoE in 2 sets. To solve this, you can just place yourself between 2 cardinals and only pay attention to when these 2 spots are getting cleaved and just dodge between them. Each spot will only get cleaved twice, so if one of these spots gets cleaved twice early, you can remain in that spot and wait for the mechanic to resolve. It is done in 2 sets, so the same spot won't get cleaved twice in a row unless it is the last hit of the first set and the first hit of the second set. The boss will then start from the beginning and loop its mechanics, starting with the 2 Zealous Glowers into Ardorous Eye, into either 2000 Mina Swing or Disorienting Groan, into Octuple Swipe, and repeat. The boss will start with Roaring Ring, a donut AoE, or Perilous Lair, a point blank AoE. Additionally, its whiskers will glow white either behind or in front of it. If behind, then it will cleave its back with a half room cleave. If it's in front, then it will cleave in front of it with a half room cleave. The glowing white whiskers occur for every Roaring Ring or Perilous Lair. The boss will then cast Stalking Static. This will spawn several orbs around the arena. These orbs will chain together, and once they reach the final orb, they'll do subsequent line AoEs between each orb until it reaches the final orb that will do a massive point blank AoE. The formation of these orbs will always be the same, but the angle is random. The chain will always start from the center and work its way out. You'll want to find the furthest orb and go opposite of it to avoid the point blank AoE. The boss will then cast another Roaring Ring or Perilous Lair. The boss will then cast Prowling Death. This will inflict you with one of 2 random debuffs, Nowhere to Run or Shadow of Death, and then cast either Roaring Ring or Perilous Lair. Nowhere to Run stacks up to 8 times. Upon reaching 8 times, you'll get doomed and you can kiss your ass goodbye. So limit your movement while dodging the Roaring Ring or Perilous Lair, only moving as much as you need to. Even once the Roaring Ring or Perilous Lair mechanic is resolved, the debuff will still be up, so wait until the debuff has worn off. Do not use your gap closer. I find what helps me with this is starting in the center of the boss's hitbox, because if the boss were to cast Perilous Lair and the whiskers were in front of me, I would need to move a whole lot more than if I was to just start in the middle. The other debuff, Shadow of Death, is the easier one. All you have to do with this one is get hit by the glowing whiskers, so pay attention to where they are cleaving and be in front of them, while still dodging the donut or point blank AoE. After that, the boss will loop its mechanics from Stalking Static into Roaring Ring or Perilous Lair, into Prowling Death, into Roaring Ring or Perilous Lair, and repeat. The boss will begin by casting Backhand, cleaving 3/3 of the arena. To safely dodge this, go to the glowing hand and place yourself between the back and flank arrow of the boss's hitbox. Once Backhand has gone off, multiple portals will appear at the side of the arena and cast Arcane Beacon, a line AoE. Meanwhile, the boss will either cast Forehind Folly, that will cleave in front and behind the boss, or Twin Winged Treachery, cleaving the boss's left and right. Either pattern will always leave 2 safe spots. The boss will repeat Backhand, doing the opposite side to the previous one, and either Forehind Folly or Twin Winged Treachery, depending on what one he did previously, as he'll always do both. To solve this mechanic, I first like to identify what the boss is casting and position myself accordingly. If it's casting Forehind, then I'll go to the sides. If it's casting Twin Winged, then I'll go in front or behind. Then I'll look at the portals and figure out which tile is safe. Either left or right, or front or back will always have a safe spot. It's just figuring out where that is and making sure you are not on a tile that a line is intersecting. The boss will then cast Hot Iron. Dodgeable ground AoEs will appear and the boss will jump to a cardinal. The boss will then cast Skin Flare, a pushback. So get close to the boss while avoiding the dodgeable AoEs and prepare to be pushed back, after which 3 portals will spawn, leaving 1 line safe to dodge into. The boss will then loop its mechanics from backhand into forehind or twin winged, into another backhand, into another forehind or twin winged, into Hot Iron, into Skin Flare, and repeat. This is the final floor and boss, so make sure to use any remaining commanders you have now. The beneficial ones being Strength, Steel, Haste, Raising, and ideally a Bark Bomb Incense, as Fail will double your HP and back you up as a DPS. If you're playing in a group, I would recommend the tank using Bark Bomb because they're the most likely not to die. Poison Fruit is also good as it will deal damage to both of the bosses. And yes, there is 2 bosses, Eminent Grief, a Void Being, and Devoured Eater, a Sin Eater. This is important because you want to keep their HPs within a good range, otherwise Devoured Eater will get a regen and Eminent Grief will get a damage up. This range is about 20 to 30% give or take, so it's not that tight, but you do want to stay on top of it. You can only damage the bosses with the debuffs on the floor, and you'll notice dark and light puddles. The dark puddles will give you a dark debuff, allowing you to deal damage to Devoured Eater, the Sin Eater, while the light debuff will allow you to deal damage to Eminent Grief, the Void Being. You'll want to juggle this debuff as it does have a timer, and when it expires, I believe it will KO you. But changing your debuff or simply refreshing the same debuff will reset the timer, so this isn't really a concern, just make sure you're picking it up every now and then. Also, make sure you are switching targets whenever you do change debuffs so you're not wasting damage on a boss that's taking 0 damage. For simplicity's sake, I'll be calling Eminent Grief just Grief and Devoured Eater just Eater to save my voice. With that out of the way, let's begin. Grief will begin the fight by casting either Ball of Fire, which will target all players with a Ball of Fire. If you get hit by this, you'll get a separation stack that will lower your total HP, or if you're solo, you'll get all 4 at once, straight up KOing you. To avoid this fate, simply move at the end of the cast. If you're with a party, try to stack up and don't block someone off with your baited AoE. The other cast is Chains of Condemnation. This will debuff all players with Chains of Condemnation, causing the debuffed player to take significant damage if they move. So once this cast has gone off, do not move until the debuff wears off. You can still do actions like attacking, but do not move or use any actions that would make you move, like a gap closer. Meanwhile, Eater will always use Blade of the First Light, but what it does depends on what weapon she is wielding. If she is wielding 2 swords, she'll do 2 cleaves to the left and right, leaving the middle safe. If she uses 1 giant sword, she'll cleave the center of the arena, leaving the left and right safe. This can either happen before or after Grief's cast. It's best to always just go to the safe spot here regardless of order, because if Eater is doing her cast after the Grief uses Chains of Condemnation, you can no longer move, so it's best to be in the safe spot for this eventuality. Eater will then cast Bounds of Sin. This will bind and suck all players to the center of the arena and begin to surround them with AoEs. Once all AoEs have gone off, the middle will explode and any players trapped will suffer considerable damage and a stack of vulnerability. If you are caught by an AoE while trying to escape, you'll be knocked off the arena and KO'd. To solve this, just look where the last few AoEs appear and dodge through them, giving you the most time to escape. Grief will then cast Spine Lash, targeting a random player with a marker and then casting Spine Lash again. This time it's a line AoE aimed at the player's last location. If this hits a window at the back of the arena, it will cause an ad to enter the fight, which you don't really want. So to avoid doing this, use the golden lines on the floor, as this position will always hit between the window and never into one. Before moving, wait until the second cast of Spine Lash appears, then dodge. Grief will then cast Abyssal Blaze and begin to tear a rift. He'll either do this horizontally or vertically. Once Grief closes the rift, he'll spawn a line of 4 diamonds at an angle. He'll then tear another rift and do it horizontally or vertically, depending on what he did last, as he'll never tear it the same way twice. This will spawn another diamonds at an angle. After some time, the diamonds will begin to glow red and then send out AoEs in both directions, either horizontally or vertically from the original point until they've reached the end of the arena. One line of diamonds will always be horizontal and the other line will always be vertical. To tell which set is which, pay attention to how Grief tears the rift. If he tears it horizontally, then the diamonds he spawns right after will expand horizontally. If he tears it vertically, then the diamonds he spawns will expand vertically. The easiest way I handle this mechanic is this. Horizontal diamonds dictate if you're going either to the very front of the arena or very back, while vertical diamonds dictate if you are going either left or right. Whatever he does first, you can always take a mental note. I'll use this clip as an example. Okay, so he's tearing a rift vertically first, so I know this is going to tell me if left or right is safe. And left is safe. Now I wait for the horizontal diamonds to tell me if I'm going either forward or back, and I'm going to the very back left, as this will be safe from any diamond AoEs. I like to stand on the second line here, as it's always the furthest away from any diamond AoEs and most comfortable. Anyway, the diamonds don't actually go off immediately, the bosses will continue to do mechanics in the meantime. It's not until they glow red is when you know you need to get your ass to the safe spot and sit tight until it's over. So yes, you have to remember where is safe. You can use waymarks to trivialize this and just repeat the letters or numbers in your head if that helps. Alright. After the diamonds have been spawned, both Grief and Eater will cast Drain Aether. This will do significant damage to you if you do not have the correct debuff, and maybe even KO you if you aren't a tank or a stealed DPS or healer. To avoid this potential KO, pay attention to both of the boss's cast bars and see who is casting faster. You'll want to pick up the opposite debuff to them. So if Eater is casting faster, you'll want the darkness debuff to nullify the damage, and straight after, you'll want to pick up the light debuff to nullify Grief's Drain Aether. After this, the diamonds will glow red, so just go to the safe spot and wait them out. And after that, there are no new mechanics and it just repeats. But it does mix the mechanics up, so just stay focused and you'll get it down. If you're going for the solo clear, and you've already done this in a party, you will have unlocked the Invoke the Final Verse, which I highly recommend doing and defeating the boss. You'll have no strength, steel, haste, raising, or bark bomb, so it may take some time, but it's a seriously good way to practice consistency, and if you can do it without any of those items, then it will be a breeze when you reach it solo. And that'll do it for this video. I hope it was helpful to you. If it was, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And yes, I'm back. Anyway, take care, and goodbye.